I have to say, in 1944 to 45, they told our grandparents exactly the same thing. They said, it's not far off now and Russia will soon be finished. Then, in the end, the Soviet flag was flying over Berlin and we were swallowed up by the Soviet Union. Since then, Russia has become a nuclear power, while Germany is only now beginning to rearm. Who really believes that the Russians will be exhausted before Ukraine? It's a dream world, an illusion, and irresponsibility. Many people often think that politics is merely a dry and tedious subject. However, I think quite the contrary, finding it deeply fascinating. It truly has 1,000 different faces. That is exactly why I love it so much. And I also deeply admire those people who, beyond being my close friends and comrades, have dedicated their lives to the pursuit of political change. The first thing to note is that they are willing to surrender and relinquish Hungary's sovereign right to veto in Brussels. Furthermore, they actively take part in providing significant financial support to Ukraine. And they support Ukraine's membership in the European Union. This is their program. We also know, ladies and gentlemen, who we are. We are the ones who are pro-peace, who oppose the war, who do not allow our money to be sent to Ukraine, who prevent Hungarian youth from being sent to Ukraine, and we are the ones who guarantee independence and sovereignty for the Hungarian people. To put it in another way, we represent the truly safe and reliable choice for everyone. Furthermore, we are fully aware of exactly who our political opponents are. Our opponents are the very people who find it impossible to say no to the demands of Brussels, those individuals who are willing to give away the hard-earned money of the Hungarian people to Ukraine, those who would allow Ukraine to enter the European Union, and by taking such actions, they would inevitably drag us directly into the middle of the war. Just take a moment to imagine that and really think about it for a second. Just imagine for a moment if, at the very beginning of the outbreak of the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine had already been a full member of the European Union. We would all be up to our necks, or at least chest deep, in a direct and devastating war against Russia. And these are the people who are clearly not masters of themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, we also know very well who our true friends are and exactly who their friends are. Our loyal friends are members of the international peace camp led by the United States. Their friends are the leaders of the European War Party, headed by the German Chancellor, who does not even try to hide this. Over the weekend in Munich, he openly admitted several things. He openly stated that in the April election, the German government, support Tisza. And they also made it clear that they are doing this because it has appeared they have made an agreement with him that after the election, Tisza will give up Hungary's right of veto, which is essential today for complete German domination in Europe. They also said that the war must continue until Russia is exhausted, and that is not far off. But for us, this is hard to understand. We believe that Russia's economic reserves significantly exceed the path, even that of the Ukrainians, even with European support, especially since the Americans have pulled out of this. But in Europe, the general conviction, and I believe some people genuinely think this, is that the Ukrainians must continue this war because the moment is not far off when Russia will be economically exhausted, will give up, and negotiations can take place under much more favorable conditions than today. My friends, this is an illusion. There is nothing. Nothing supports this theory. Nothing supports this strategy that the Germans and the Europeans, together with them, are pursuing today. It is simply tempting fate. And in politics, tempting fate is an enormous responsibility. I have to say, in 1944 to 45, they told our grandparents exactly the same thing. They said, it's not far off now and Russia will soon be finished. Then, in the end, the Soviet flag was flying over Berlin and we were swallowed up by the Soviet Union. Since then, Russia has become a nuclear power, while Germany is only now beginning to rearm. Who really believes that the Russians will be exhausted before Ukraine? It's a dream world, an illusion, and irresponsibility. The third political condition was that our representatives would have to say no to Ukraine's EU membership. Because the final word, if it ever comes to us at all, on Ukraine's EU accession must be approved by the Hungarian parliament. Without the decision of the Hungarian parliament, this is not possible. That is why we expect, and in fact have agreed with the parliamentary candidates, that if things escalate to the point where the Hungarian parliament must decide on this, they will say no to Ukraine's EU accession, since the people have already made their decision on this matter. During the VOGs 2025, The fourth thing we set as a political precondition for the candidates is that they must say no to war. We know that the Europeans have decided that between 2026 and 2030 they are going to war. Yes, Europe has decided it is going to war. But Hungary must stay out of this, because on this issue as well, it is not the government, but only the Hungarian parliament that has the authority to decide. In other words, the representatives.